Always look on the bright side. Although, it may just be the bright side because it's on fire. Unknown. It's okay. I'm a firefighter. Neilsen.
Good morning. My name is Neilsen, and I'm a sixth form day student from Westfield, Massachusetts. Coming to Westminster on revisit day my 8th grade year, I remember looking around at the many girls in nice skirts and cardigans and the boys in their fancy blazers, and immediately feeling extremely underdressed. That day, I sported flare-out blue jeans in what I classified as a nice t-shirt. At this point, you are probably thinking, oh boy, another chapel talk about how she adapted to Westminster and how it changed her life. But I regret to inform you that I'm going in a different direction with this one. You see, earlier that morning, I had desperately tried to find a decent outfit to wear by scrummaging through the many donated clothes from my cousins and my friends. Although my cousin has great taste, what I had as my new wardrobe were her clothes from around 6th grade. And we all know that year is, well, not the trendiest. So, I took what I could get and prepared to shadow at my new school. I suppose now it's about time to start my story from the top, which is midnight, March 2nd, 2014. That night, as my neighbors slept soundly in their beds, I stood frozen in the hallway of my house, listening to the deafening ring of fire alarms. Held in a trance, my parents grabbed my arms as the words they shouted got caught in the smoke. Looking over my shoulder while I was pushed into the freezing night, I could see my family room, where I had spent 13 years of my life, 13 Christmases of ripping open presents from Santa, and 13 birthdays of celebrations, engulfed in flames. Thankfully, we all made it out safely, with the exclusion of my cat, who, don't worry, we later found tucked behind her couch. Although at the time, this was a very scary night, looking back, this situation holds so many moments of irony that I can't help but laugh at now. So, you should know that my dad is a firefighter. And as a firefighter, he has taught everyone in our community 3 basic rules. 1. Get out safely and do not take anything with you. 2. Make a meeting place and be sure to gather there. 3. Let the firemen do their job and don't interfere. I can honestly tell you that we made my dad proud. My family did everything pretty darn well that night, as my brothers and I grew up memorizing and living by these rules. But we followed them all with a little modification. To rule number 1, yes, we did all get out safely, eventually including my cat. But my brother did run upstairs to carry out my dog, who was hiding underneath my bed. To rule number 2, I cannot tell you the amount of people who asked me if we actually met at our meeting place. No, we did not meet at our playscape. But, to be fair, we all exited together, so we knew the gang was all there. To rule number 3, I guess we did let the firemen do their jobs because my dad is a fireman who was just off duty. But just envision this. The fire truck is finally arriving at my house. You can see all the men in their thick, fire-resistant gear, masks and helmets on, ready to go. And behind the truck, my dad, in his plaid pajama pants and t-shirt, already pulling off the hose from the truck, which is, mind you, still rolling. Obviously, I couldn't appreciate all this irony back then, but boy does it make for a good story now. So, about 3 hours later, we are told to go inside and take some clothes and personal belongings that will last us for a couple of days. Family friends surrounded us in their equipment and flashlights as they helped us pack our things, find our cat, and get out so we could drive to my aunt's house, only to prepare for my grandmother's wake later in the morning, which we arrived to smelling heavily like smoke. Yeah, I guess you could say it was a bad day. A couple days turned into a couple weeks, which we spent at the Holiday Inn. Honestly, these days were like the honeymoon phase of the whole process. Something huge just happened, but we didn't quite grasp how huge it actually was. Life went on, mostly as usual, as I had a quicker commute to school and had an infinite amount of gift baskets, cards, and extra clothes arriving every day from my family. But then, a couple of weeks turned into a couple of months where we decided to find a house to rent. We spent some time looking at houses, but none of us could find it within ourselves to leave our home to strangers and just observe from afar. So, the only logical solution was to rent 2 trailers and park them in my side yard for 9 months as we worked each day to rebuild our house. My 2 brothers ended up living in 1 trailer together, while I was stuck with my parents in the other. No offense, my parents are splendid people, but I was so jealous when I would go over to my brother's trailer where rock music was blasting and their cabinets were stacked with Oreos, chips, and candy, Coca-Cola galore, only to have them deny me all of it and kick me out because it was their house and their rules. Right. So, we got settled into our new trailer homes with donated clothes hanging in my closet and a saved High School Musical 2 poster hanging on my wall because I saved it before it got trashed and felt the need for something to spice up my wood-paneled walls. I was back on my normal bus commuting to school where my social studies teacher had assigned a project to make a medieval castle using just household items. I thought this was kind of funny/ironic and told my parents some charred wood would make a really authentic dungeon. And we were ready to start on the long road to recovery and return to our house. Wanting to save some money and renovate, my family decided to do a lot of the destruction and construction ourselves. Summer rolled along, and I spent long days sweltering in the heat, nailing in hardwood floors with my dad, demolishing drywall, ripping up trim, carpets, and cabinets, and arguing with my mom over which color we should paint each room. Which I do have to publicly admit, Mom, yes, you're right, the colors do flow together nicely. And yes, the rooms do look beautiful. Anyways, if you don't know my dad, he is basically Forrest Gump. Somehow, he knows how to do and has done everything. I mean, everything. He has played every sport, been known as Rappin' Ray in his good old days as a DJ, been in the Air Force Reserves, and is infamous for demolishing all of his children in yard games and video games like Galaga and Galaxian. So, when it came to reconstructing our house, he was all over it and had a field day showing my brothers and I almost everything we need to know about carpentry. I remember feeling so important as I was in charge of cutting foam to insulate pipes, and still shudder from the memory of the endless misery when I was on staple duty and had to ply out hundreds of staples left over from the carpets one by one using a flathead screwdriver. Traumatic experience. But then, there were times where I convinced my dad to tear down the frame of my brother's wall to his room, which was double the size of mine. Being the daddy's girl I am, that wall came down the very next day without my mom's consent, which can be a very scary thing. And my brother Mikey agreed to move up to the attic, which is also a pretty sweet deal if you ask me. Meanwhile, my oldest brother Jake was stuck in the basement, but he's only a little bitter about it. In times where my dad trusted me to help nail in hardwood floors in my parents' room, or when my uncle brought my cousins Carly and Tommy to spend the day with hammers and crowbars, ready to get their hands dirty. So, if your house ever catches on fire, you know which family to call. Overall, however bad this may seem, I wouldn't trade this experience for the world. Although our life got flipped, turned upside down, I learned to appreciate everything so much more, formed stronger bonds with my cousins, my brothers, and my parents, picked up some useful carpentry skills, and had the chance to see my community come together to help us in any way possible. I truly have never witnessed people unite like that before. Strangers came knocking on our door, asking what they could do to help. Friends held spaghetti suppers, and there was a constant inflow of people helping with needed tasks, such as tearing down drywall or taking inventory of items lost in the fire. As many things had to be thrown away due to smoke damage, I had the chance to uncover lost memories tucked in boxes in the depths of the attic. I found my mom's neatly crafted high school scrapbooks with newspaper cutouts glued onto each page, my dad's tennis photos of him in white short shorts and knee-high socks, my kindergarten artwork of my yellow house with maroon shutters at the bottom of the hill, the Matchbox cars that my brothers and I had spent hours with, making thoughtful and serious trades with each other, and so many more memories that we were lucky enough to keep. Other memories were not so lucky, but I got to appreciate them one more time before they were gone. Best of all, I had the chance to appreciate my house, which held infinite memories, and build a new one from its bones with my family. The wooden frames that support these walls are the frames that have been there my whole life, while the new hardwood floor in my parents' room was put in through the work and sweat of me and my dad. I believe now my house is perfect, as it holds memories of my past, present, and future, and will always have parts of my family in its bones.